Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today, got the fabulous Susan Myers with me, and I'm going to ask Susan the same question I ask absolutely every guest. Hey, Susan, why did you become carnivore?
I always had digestive issues, really bad digestive issues from early age, preteen, teen, adult years. And they always said, eat more fiber, eat more fiber, eat more fiber. And I would get worse and worse and worse. And I also developed mood swings and anxiety and depression. So fast forward to the age of 47, I had ballooned up to nearly 300 pounds and I was feeling sick. I was on medications for 25 years. They diagnosed me with all sorts of things: ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, all of it, even bipolar 2 in 2004. And the medications made things worse, not better. So I finally I did the biggest mistake of all. I went cold turkey off all of it, and that is not good. And I started Googling my symptoms on the internet, and everything pointed to eat real food, just eat real food. So I went to a nutritional, holistic, functional medical doctor in Northampton, Massachusetts, and they tested my blood, said I had all these allergies and sensitivities to foods, and they recommended cutting out grain. Start with that. So I did. And I still wasn't feeling good. So then I, I started finding references to this thing called paleo. And I started the paleo diet research, went down the rabbit hole with that. And I bought a book called The Paleo Solution by Rob Wolf. And I read that book front to back in like a month. And read it again and applied all the principles. And I threw everything out. Like anything that had a shelf life of 3 weeks, I threw out of my house. And a nurse had taken me aside at that place and said, don't even give it to the homeless shelter. It's not good to them either. And so I was like, that was like a light bulb moment for me. And so in that book, Rob Wolf mentioned CrossFit. And so I'm like, what is CrossFit? Because that was when Biggest Loser was this big hit on TV. And so I looked for CrossFit near me, and there was one in the town I lived in, and I started going there. And I combined paleo with CrossFit, and I lost 125 pounds in a year and a half. And I was amazed. But there was still niggling inside my body, so to speak. Like there was something still not right with my digestion. And then I had allowed sugar back in my diet because I went totally sugar free. And I don't even think I knew what sweeteners were then. And so I kept crossfitting, but my diet started to get a little back. I was allowing things back in. I sort of gave up on myself. And then at the age of 50, I retired. And I should actually back up a little bit more. During the lockdown of COVID in 2020, I was so upset with myself for gaining some weight back and getting some issues back that I hired a nutritionist in Canada. And she worked with me for 6 months on keto because I figured keto was the way to go. As soon as I started adding saturated animal fat in my diet, I was feeling a lot better mentally. But I was still eating a lot of fruit. I was still eating a lot of vegetables. I was eating dark chocolate and berries and yogurt, a lot. And so still wasn't feeling good. So then I turned 57 and I decided to retire from 36 years of working in the U.S. Postal Service. And I was sick with the COVID the day I retired. All sorts of depressed. This was now January of 2022. And I discovered YouTube. And on the couch flipping the channels, and I see Dr. Chafee and Steak and Butter Gal and just all the channels, Dr. Kill, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. And I started listening to this thing about carnivore. And I just watched all the videos. And so I tried it on my own, probably in April of 22. And I was just doing like 2 ribeye steaks a day. I didn't know it was called the Lion Diet back then, really. And I just started doing that. I was feeling better. And I'm like, oh, maybe there's something to this. But then there was a lot of naysayers in my gym and scaring me not to do it. And so I stopped doing it. And then I felt kind of crappy again. So then I ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I joined the Steak and Butter gang, and that's where I met you. And I just started going to the meetings and doing the priming, like the learning how to feast and heal, and that it's not a weight loss diet, that it's a healing diet. And the first 90 days I lost weight. I felt better. My mental health improved, and I was doing great, and it was awesome. And then I did the proverbial, oh, maybe I can reintroduce a little bit of this again when the holidays came up. And so in 2023, I had a couple cheats that not only puts some of the weight back on, but brought my mind back to crazy thoughts again and mood swings. So I finally decided that's it. 100% carnivore is all I can do. And I've been strict again. I did the New Jersey Northeast meetup and met a whole bunch of carnivores, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, Kelly Hogan, so many people. And I've really made a lot of friends in the carnivore community, friends that I'm meeting up with in KetoCon in Austin, Texas this year. And I just, like, I have a tribe now. It's kind of cool. And my mental health is better again. I'm reading the book Brain Energy. I'm reading the book Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Dr. Dorothy Eads and Christopher Palmer, and really learning how the metabolic disorders and the digestive issues also relate to the mental illness issues I have. So I feel like I have a normal brain and a normal body for the first time in my life. And I just turned 60 and did a CrossFit competition and did pretty good.
Well, that's an amazing story. Yeah. And brilliantly told and linear, and all the dates are in there. So that was great. One thing that jumped out at me, I mean, I do know you're quite a strong character. So I was a bit surprised when you said some naysayers made you give up. What were they saying that made you think, oh, maybe I am doing a bad thing?
Oh, the whole heart disease thing. And like family members even said, oh, your dad died of a heart attack, your grandpa, everybody, you can't eat that saturated fat, it's bad for you. No, you get it. And, so it's like, I was being torn in two, hearing both sides of the argument. It's a carnivore argument, the keto argument, and then, the people in your life argument. And then one day I just said, I listened to these people my whole life and they didn't help me. So I'm going to listen to like Dr. Chafee and all them this time.
Yeah, and that's definitely a theme. And when you talk about your digestive issues, you said they were saying eat more fiber, you're getting worse and worse and worse. So at some point, you do just have to listen to your own experience. And I think it's great that you're so honest about, you fell off the wagon a couple of times. Everyone does it. Everyone gets overconfident. I did, and you just think, oh, maybe I'll be okay to have a couple of whatever that, you shouldn't really have, dark chocolate, yogurt, whatever. And it comes back to bite you. But you did the right thing. You took it as a sign that you need to be more strict and put your health above everything else, and that really shines through. Um, you messaged me and you said you're on 5 medications and on tons of supplements. What were the meds? Do you remember what you've come off of?
Well, they had me on Adderall for ADD, that antidepressants, and I was on antidepressants for 25 years. I was probably one of the first group of people when Prozac first came out. I was probably 18 years old, and then over the years, different antidepressants in place of the Prozac, because they thought, oh, well, this one didn't work. Well, I was a literal guinea pig for 25 years with my mental health. And I think they tried to give me gabapentin at one time. And in 2004, when I was diagnosed with the bipolar 2, which I don't believe that they were accurate with that. They were just, I think they were guessing, well, this isn't helping her. Maybe she has this. Let's try this. So many different drugs they tried me on. And I can't remember the name that I was on that made me quit, but I had passed out. Everything got blurry and fuzzy. And I was at work and I passed out and fell on the cement floor. Almost broke my nose. And it was at that point in that, I think it was like 2005, I decided that these drugs are killing me. They're not helping me. And I went cold turkey. And I never, other than when I had surgery a few years ago when I broke my wrist, and I had to take a prescription ibuprofen, I have not been on a prescription drug since then, not even an antibiotic in 2005.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you went cold turkey, but that was a bit of a mistake. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think just the withdrawals off of the medications. It was a lot of up and down mood swings and just body aches and all sorts of headaches and, questioning myself, did I do the right thing? But then I was at this place where I was having a hard time, even back then, trusting the medical community. And so I don't recommend going cold turkey. I think if you're seeing a doctor and you're on a medication, taper off with the doctor's help. I didn't listen back then. I should have done that.
Yeah. I think, gradually coming off it is exactly the same. It's sort of analogous to coming into carnivore. Some people go from the standard American diet straight into carnivore and they have a lot of transition issues. I mean, you did the sort of normal route, cutting out grains, going paleo, going keto, going carnivore. So you sort of on that side, on the nutrition, you've gradually come into it. But obviously, I'm
glad I did that way, because I didn't ever have the keto flu or the electrolyte imbalance that people had.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I mean, I like the way that you sort of summed it up for me when you emailed, because you said, I'm not fat, I'm healthy, no meds, no supplements, full of energy, strength, muscles, flexibility, mobility, maybe one cold a year, living my best life and more to come. And I think it is really interesting because we're all so different, but those themes come through ever such a lot. And I think the mental health is undersold because the fat loss is an easy thing to take a picture of, and I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, bit of clickbait, pictures of you before and after. But mental health is really important, and in carnivore there seems to be so many people turning their mood and their anxiety around. I mean, is that something that surprised you after so many years on meds?
Yeah, because even that period of time that I was off the meds before finding carnivore, I was still having mood swings. And I think they called it carnivore zen, a lot of the people in the communities. And that's what it is. It's like, wow, I'm not worrying about things anymore. Or, wow, that used to upset me, but it doesn't anymore. It would be little things each day. I'm more calmer. no emotional reactions. Even my husband, he was like, wow, you don't get mad or bite my head off anymore. What's going on? It, and I just started noticing it. People in my life started knowing it, people at the gym or just my friends at church. It's for me, I'm a woman of faith, so it's an answer to prayer. And for me, it was a lesson in something I've always been taught at church is in God's time, not yours. So in hindsight, even though at first I was mad at how I healed and all I had to do was change my diet 30, 40 years ago, and this never would have happened. But it all happened for a purpose that's beyond my understanding. It happened when it was supposed to happen for me, and I hope I can help others somehow, some way. I share it as often as I can with people, and hopefully, the younger generation won't have to suffer as my generation did. I hope.
Yeah, well, these videos do help people, and they're evergreen. They'll be out there for a long period of time. I mean, the last 28 days, my channel's had, I think, 315,000 views. So there's a lot of people seeing these things, and yeah, maybe 2% don't believe it, and I get some pretty nasty comments. And I always say, look, these are real people. We're not paid to say this stuff. You should be pleased that they've got better. It doesn't, so you will make a difference. It definitely will inspire some people, because the more they see these sort of things that they're told categorically, you cannot heal with diet, which is ridiculous. The more people will try it, and then there will be even more people doing these stories, and it will just be a fantastic thing to see. I think one of the things that I like about you is you want to learn as well. So you mentioned Dr. Georgia Eats. She's coming on this next week to talk about her book, Your Diet, can change your mind. Is that something that you want to pursue? You want to get more into the science of it all?
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was looking into the Bazooki Group and the Metabolic Mind by Dr. Brett Scher, who is a cardiologist. And I would like to study metabolic neuroscience nutrition. And I am willing at my age to go back to school to learn this, because I'm finding in my personal life, in my area of Western Massachusetts, there's not a lot of people doing carnivore. There's not a community here yet. And people don't listen to you in the Northeast unless you have a certification or a title next to your name saying that you're knowledgeable or have some kind of degree or certification. So if that's what I have to do to help people hear me, I don't want to do it to make a lot of money. I mean, I just want people to have a quality life, to have a normal functioning brain again, and to be able to socially interact with other people better than I ever had in my past. It is a gift. And you can't just keep that to yourself. You have to share it with the world.
Yeah, you do. I think that's great. That's a segue into some sort of more practical questions, because some of the most common comments I have is, yeah, but what does she eat? Or, does she fast? So I'm going to just rattle through those sort of very, I suppose, mundane questions, but people that are new to this, they want to know. So firstly, Susan, do you eat 1 meal a day, 2 meal a day, or what do you do?
Mostly 2 meals a day. And if I'm hungry, true hunger, I'll have a carnivore snack. I make my own carnivore crisps now, beef jerky, and it's great. In fact, I brought a whole bag of beef jerky that I made to my CrossFit competition, and I was sharing it with people there. They were like, "You made this? This is delicious. What is it?" I'm like, "It's ribeye steak and New York strip."
Wonderful.
And so I love it. And I eat I eat the steaks, the fatty cut steaks. I eat the hamburger, um, eggs, salmon, oysters, sardine, and chicken wings. I rotate all the animal food. I am fortunate enough that I can eat all the animal foods without any reaction. Um, but mostly the red meat, that's the staple. That's what I have first thing in the morning for energy is I have my steak and egg.
Now that's interesting. You said first thing in the morning. Do you mean at a sort of traditional breakfast time, or do you wait till sort of midday?
No, I used to do the fast where you wait till 12 o'clock to eat. And it worked for a while until it didn't. With my schedule changed so much with working, retiring from working that I find if I get up with the sunrise and within an hour of waking, eat my first meal being my largest meal, and then going about my day, my CrossFit, my walking, going to church, all my activities, it serves me well. And then I have my second meal around 5 o'clock in the afternoon with my husband for dinner. We have a nice moderate dinner, and I get all my protein and fat that I need for those 2 meals. And
Fabulous. Yeah. I mean, do you weigh your food, or do you just do it by looking at it? Just look at it.
yeah, over the years, all the weighing and measure I used to do when I was in keto and paleo, I kind of know how to eyeball how many and how much protein is in it. So it's been helpful to have that ability.
Yeah, it is. And I think people don't believe it when they first start, because although I do offer meal plans and sort of rough guides to how much protein you need per pound of body, in the end, I'm always saying, being intuitive is the best thing, because that's how we're designed. We're designed to be like that. And I think getting away from sort of, calories or restricting in any way is just a good thing. It's so healthy. You mentioned about putting on a little bit of weight. Did you ever dabble with? I know you said about intermittent fasting. Did you ever dabble with extended fasting or anything like that?
Oh, yes, I did. Actually, when I was doing the keto diet, I was doing a 42-hour fast once a week for about a year, and I did quite well with it. But then when I started the carnivore and I was doing the longer fasts, I now know in hindsight, I should have let my body heal more with the carnivore eating before starting the longer fast, because I ended up having some issues with some hair loss. And so now I still fast, but more naturally. It happens on its own. I don't force fast. Like, I don't do any 72 hours anymore. But I'll do an occasional, like right now, I'm going into the Lenten season, the 40 days and 40 nights. Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. And so I am going to incorporate fasting and praying for those 40 days, which will probably either involve the alternate day fasting or one 24 to 42-hour fast a week. I haven't decided which one yet.
Yeah. I mean, Lent is a brilliant example of fasting not being a fad, because that's been around thousands of years, isn't it? So you mentioned a word there that always gets people interested who don't know about this, and I'm not going to explain it. I'm going to ask you to explain it, and that's, you mentioned priming. What does that mean?
So how I describe priming to people is, when you have to start your lawnmower at the beginning of summer and you have to press that little priming button to get the fuel to go into the carburetor so that'll run. So priming for carnivore is your body hasn't had the proper fuel for so many years. You have to fill up your body with feasting on all that good food to help heal your body from the inside out. And some people have to feast a little longer than others to heal more problems, and it takes time. It's not something you can do overnight. And I learned it in the steak and butter gang. And it, so then when you feast, you prime your body to be able to have the proper nutrition and all your organs are working. Then your body naturally eats less after that and naturally fasts. Like you had mentioned, intuitively eating. It's just, it comes natural. The body knows how to regulate itself and it knows how to feed itself. It knows what it needs when it needs it, and it lets you know. Like,
Yeah.
When I'm craving oysters and sardines, I know, oh, I must be low in zinc and selenium, and just your brain comes back in such a way that you're connected. So you prime the body. It's the perfect name that they came up with, the priming. Raymond Nathan, yeah.
Yeah, great coach. And it is interesting because people don't really understand. I always say it's sort of a bit like your analogy. I say it's like a reboot. You're going to now start your life eating the right foods, but your body's not ready for the right foods because you've spent 40 years eating the wrong foods. So you literally are rebooting, starting from scratch almost with eating the foods that you can tolerate and enjoy. And don't worry about the volume of the food. You just eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. If you want a snack, have a snack. And after about 2 weeks, most people will message and say, do you know what? I've never had this feeling in my life, but I don't want to eat tomorrow. I feel full. I actually understand what that means. Not to be stuffed, not to be uncomfortable, but I feel like I don't need to eat tomorrow. I'm full of energy and I'm full of nutrients. And I think it's an amazing thing. I did it. If people are interested, you can see my 18-week experiment. I didn't do priming for 18 weeks, but Raymond and I did a live every single Sunday, and I deliberately gained weight to show that you can also control your weight. And anyway, it's a fabulous period of our life. And I was really glad to meet you there because, we've kept in contact, which is amazingly good.
Yeah, I remember that video when you guys did that.
Yeah, it was great fun. It was really good fun. And I think, we've both got 60 now, so that's interesting as well, that we can talk about getting more hair rather than losing hair. So that's one thing I want. Yeah, look at it. Yeah.
Then it wasn't the fasting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It wasn't the fasting that made me lose my hair. It was I was under eating. And I wasn't getting the nutrients that I needed. Because like we just previously mentioned, people have been fasting for millennia. And fasting is not bad for you. But the reason my hair came back, I made sure I got enough fat. The saturated animal fat is what helps the hair follicles, the hair grow back.
Yeah. You see, this is the bane of my life, the undereating, especially for someone that wants to lose weight. They're so scared of overeating, they undereat and they don't eat enough. And then you get the hair loss. And I always explain, your hair is not the most important thing for your body. If there's a lack of nutrients, it's going to jettison your hair because it's sort of the sacrificial lamb, so to speak. Your body is doing the right thing. And then as soon as you start eating properly, it's not instant, obviously, because hair takes a long time to start to grow again. But
it grows. Yeah.
Look at it. Yes. Lustrous. Yes.
It's soft, it's thick, it's long, nothing breaks or falls out. I can put my finger through it.
Yeah. You see, it's fabulous. So if someone was thinking about eating carnivore and they're on the fence and you've been there with your friends, family and the naysayers, and they're not quite sure, and you were sort of talking to them somewhere, what would you say to them if they were on the fence?
Well, I would tell them my story as quickly as I could. And I keep my pictures in my phone to show people. And I tell them how I was on medication. I don't take it. That I'm healthier and stronger now at 60 than I was in my 30s. And it's just, and I tell them that it was an answer to prayer and they don't believe me. I just tell them, well, literally, I got down on my knees and prayed to help me help myself, because I saw a picture of me at 300 pounds. I had a beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other hand. So I was a pack-a-day smoker too. And the next day, my phone rang, and it was my cousin, and she had asked me if I wanted to learn how to run. And that's when it all started. Like, it just snowballed after that. I looked at the cigarettes in my hand. The phone call was the answer to the prayer the night before. I threw them out and never looked back. And I started running, and then and that's when everything happened at the age of 47, and I look forward to my 70s even being better. I mean, every year has gotten better, physically and mentally. Of course, there's ups and downs. We all have ups and downs, but it's just, the food heals. I always tell people, cows heal you. They really do. And Kelly Hogan says it best, eat the meat, save the human,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit on something quite profound, which really resonated with me and I've not really put it into words, but you're right about not dreading aging, actually. I'm looking forward to my 70s and my 80s. And yet in my 40s, I was dreading my 50s and 60s because at that time I was high carb, I was getting fatter, pre-diabetic, even though I was a personal trainer, didn't smoke, didn't drink. That's brilliant, Susan. I think that is it. I think this way of eating is the perfect way to live because it makes you look forward to living and going into old age. I think
I think I'm not at 60 years old that I signed up for the CrossFit Open again. And why not? You get to work out virtually with the entire world of CrossFitters, and you're competing against yourself from the previous year. And it's just amazing. Like, if you told me in my 30s that I would be Olympic weightlifting against people worldwide in my 60s, I would have been, you're not.
That's amazing. I think I'm going to finish on that because that's absolutely brilliant. Susan, thanks so much for telling your story.